I want to show you exactly how CBC spreads misinformation while simultaneously claiming that they're out there fighting it. It's really psychological warfare, and if you weren't paying close enough attention, you might not even notice they're doing it.
Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
I'm going to show you an article in the CBC from a couple of weeks ago. In fact, it was published in advance of Chris Scott and Art Pawlowski's incredible victories for free speech in front of Court of Appeals Justice Joanne Streckeff, wherein the men's respective lawyers, Chad Williamson and Sarah Miller, successfully argued for a stay of their compelled speech and travel sanctions. Now, for those of you who don't know, going back a little, both men were found guilty of contempt of a secret court order that limited what Alberta Health Services called illegal public gatherings. In Art's case, it was his church service. And in Chris's case, it was the protest he held to show his disgust for the seizure of his roadside diner when the government couldn't make him close it to sit-in dining services. Justice Adam Germain, all on his own and beyond the request of Alberta Health Services, as punishment, bound the men to utter Germain's own opinions about COVID, lockdowns, and vaccines before the men expressed their own opinions. Germain also forced them to stay in Alberta to prevent them from telling the world what was happening to them at the hands of the state and at the hands of Germain himself. Anyway, Art and Chris's lawyers, through your donations to fightthefines.com and savearcher.com, were able to have those two punitive punishments stayed while they appeal their sanctions to a higher, hopefully more sane court. Now, I think even CBC knew those sanctions were so crazy that no judge in a free Western country would uphold them. So cue the disinformation and discrediting of those who stand up to the COVID cops and the locker downers. Okay, let's go to the CBC article now. Here it is. Misinformation in the courtroom, how cases challenging COVID-19 restrictions in Alberta have shifted. Alberta Health Services has been involved with more than 25 civil claims this year. Over the past 19 months, Alberta has seen church leaders, business owners, and others challenge public health restrictions in the court system. But health law experts and far-right researchers say they've seen a shift in the nature of the court challenges in the province. Now, CBC goes on in the article to cite a whole host of anti-extremism experts who wring their hands at the prospect of normal people not bowing on their knees before government. And then they point to a series of lawsuits brought by self-represented individuals who think that they know better than highly educated lawyers, one of which gained international attention for not knowing what the words material evidence meant in legal jargon, and thus he claimed he somehow single-handedly, through layman's legal jujitsu, overturned the COVID restrictions here in Alberta months ago. This would be news to all of us still living under those same restrictions today. But you know who isn't mentioned in the article? Not even mentioned once? Chris Scott. Why? Because he isn't some homemade free man on the land legal shaman. He has one of the best lawyers in the country working for him, the aforementioned Chad Williamson. Now, Chad beat all of Justin Trudeau's best lawyers on a long weekend's worth of prep and 4 pots of coffee to get Rebel News access to the federal leaders debate. He is one of the best. But you know whose image these fake news peddlers at the CBC used in their article? Chris Scott, from the stage at the very protest he was arrested at. That's disinformation. And the greatest irony, I wanted to show you how this pathetic fake news in the CBC came to be, how CBC tried to make Chris Scott look like a homemade legal expert, free man on the land conspiracy theorist when he's not. Last line. This story was supported by Journalists for Human Rights Misinformation Project with funding from the McConnell Foundation, the Rossi Foundation, and the Trottier Foundation. Misinformation funded in part by organizations that claim they fight it. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Chris Scott and Pastor Art Pawlowski still have a long legal road ahead of them as they appeal the decisions of Justice Adam Germain. If you'd like to donate to offset their legal fees, please donate today at savearcher.com or fightthefines.com. And all donations there qualify for a charitable tax receipt through a partnership with the registered Canadian charity, the Democracy Fund.